All right. Okay, folks. 9 o'clock Sunday night. You know what that means. It is time for the Crack House podcast. My name is Mike O'Sullivan. Joining me in everything Crack House is my man Chris Muscalino. What's up, dude?
What's up, Big Mike, man? What's happening? How's all
Nothing.
the crackheads out there?
I think all the crackheads are doing well. We really appreciate all the love out there. Like, subscribe, share, tell everybody, tell your friends, tell your neighbors. We can,
Like, subscribe, everybody. Doing good job, man. Picking up
yeah,
some subscribers. Uh,
yeah,
Super excited, man.
like I said, listen, we're closing in on like 5,000 views on YouTube, uh, almost 3,000 audio downloads. Like, we love you guys. Can't thank you enough.
Mike, behind the scenes, everybody is working on some big things as well as I am in terms of guests, maybe channels picking us up. We got a lot of stuff in the works. Some special people coming on the show in the next couple weeks. Very
Yeah.
happy, man.
Yeah, things are starting to pick up a little. Like I said, we're not going to release everything yet. Not going to let you know until everything's uh, signed, sealed, and delivered. But yeah, the Crack House is
Signed, sealed, delivered. I'm
Woo!
yours.
But yeah, everything's going good. So we thank you again for all the support and all the crackheads out there. All right, let's get into it right now. Kamala Harris went down to the border, man. She made a run for the border and then wanted to come home. Yeah. I guess the only way you could describe her little trip down there was no bueno. It was not. I mean, she just basically flat out told those people, like, just don't come, don't come.
No, senorita Kamala, aquí.
Yeah. Did you see they had signs out saying Trump won the election when she got down? Like, man, there's a lot of hate. I didn't realize like Guatemala was that, was Trump country, man. No, I didn't know that.
Dude, you always used to, see like, Trump getting, I guess, trolled when he went overseas and stuff, and the media picked up on it, but they kind of they didn't put a lot of emphasis. I saw the stuff that you saw, and I saw it in passing.
Yeah.
It was there for a day, and then it was gone, but I thought it was super freaking hysterical seeing that, it's just not relegated to Trump. It was just, it was the vice president. And like you said, of all places for Guatemala to troll her, and it was just so weird, man, but hysterical. I mean, the signs that were up there.
Yeah.
Oh, he lost.
Yeah, they wanted her to leave, get out.
Trump won.
Trump won. What is that? Who knew?
I'm even surprised that they let that go, like on the media. I'm surprised they didn't filter that out. I mean,
well, I mean, like you said, they tried to keep it really as like low key as possible. I mean, but it's such like it's such an it is an embarrassment. It's such an embarrassment for that to happen, things like that to happen. The media has to report it. They smell blood in the water. Now the media has to realize right now, like especially like, like those like channels like CNN, MSNBC, they have to realize right now that their ratings are basically just built on trashing politicians. And
yeah, it's sad.
They have to get that blood in the water. It's blood. Yeah, they got to go after the blood in the water. So,
and it's sad that I think the media has to resort to that in order to get ratings. Whether it's Trump, who is let's face facts, whether you like him or not. I support him. I voted for him. I'm not ashamed to say it. But the reality of it was the guy was an easy target. Whereas I think Biden's a little bit of an easier target in the sense that he's an older guy. He says some stupid shit like Trump, albeit in a different way. and you've got the super unlikable vice president who, to be honest with you, you know, I think her popularity ratings, maybe we talked about this a couple weeks ago. I don't know
Yeah.
if we mentioned it on air, are just like abysmal. Like
Really?
if you take out like Biden for a second and just poll popularity ratings, I think she's lower than Trump, in
Wow.
terms of like, how many people approve of her likability factor, all that shit. But like you said, to go to a
Yeah.
foreign country like that, Guatemala of all places,
Yeah.
and to get trolled that way, I just thought it was super hysterical, man. It
Yeah.
really was.
She gives off like that, like uh really like bitchy rich wife kind of like vibe, and she just got like she just got caught banging the pool boy, and the husband came home. Like the way she just laughs everything off all the time, like, haha, what do you mean? What do you mean? Yeah, so what? He was over here helping me swim. Haha, what? Huh, what? He was cleaning the pool. Haha, I'm speaking. I'm speaking. Excuse me, I'm speaking. Uh, she's a very weird, like you said, she can come off very unlikable. I mean, the guy, NBC News interviewed her, the guy Lester Holt, and she got a little snippy with him too, where he's like, she kept saying, well, we're going to the border. He's like, well, you didn't go yet. When are you going? Oh, we're going. Well, when? There's 15,000 people at a border right now. What are you doing about it?
I'll stick up for her a second. I'll stick up for President Biden, and I'll stick up for Trump and any other president in the past. And I saw something where the French president, I guess, was going in like in a like a motorcade, or not a motorcade, like he was like in a parade or something, and he went into the audience and some guy slapped him in the face,
Yeah, I
almost
saw that. Yeah, yeah,
like years ago when the guy threw the shoe at Bush,
yeah.
the younger, and right, he ducked. The point I try to make with Kamala or Biden or Trump or whoever, there's such a lack of respect for our politicians, man. And I'm not talking just Trump or Biden or Obama, who just overall, it just seems like the media in general, and I guess it varies depending on who's in office and stuff. But the level of disrespect that I think is there for the office at this point, and some people in general, by these media people, it's alarming too. And I think it started to really ramp up. I mean, significantly with Trump. And even Biden, look, I didn't vote for him, but show the man some respect and show the vice president respect. On some level, like these reporters, I think they continue to hound these people, Mike. And
Yeah.
it's really,
I watched
really,
I watched some political show.
This is disrespectful, my friends.
yeah.
I watched a political like forum show years ago, and exactly what you're saying about like the disrespect of the office. And one of these reporters broke it down and said it all started with Richard Nixon and Watergate. Once that story broke, it felt like the president was gettable, where nothing was off limits,
I
because
think that was the start of it. Yeah.
what they had talked about prior to that was like the 1960 presidential debate between Nixon and Kennedy.
Checkers debate.
Checkers,
Yeah.
but here was the big thing. Everyone knew JFK was banging everything with two tits, a hole, and a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Everyone knew, like even Nixon knew. And it was a gentleman's agreement, like your private life is your private life. We're just going to talk politics. And then when it finally got around to Nixon and Watergate, they said it just broke everything open. I think this was actually around the time of like the Monica Lewinsky scandal when I watched this. That's how long ago it was. And they were saying how like the solemn position of the presidency has just been broken down over like the last 20 years since Watergate, and how it just continues constantly now, where it's like it's almost like a TMZ show now.
I think it's a good point, Mike. I also think that, my theory on this is this, being a political science major on some level, I thought it started really to ramp up during the Clinton administration. And I
Yeah,
thought
yeah,
the level of disrespect really started to really ramp up at that level. There was always jokes, in Saturday Night Live and stuff, like you said, Nixon, I think he started it, in terms of like the impeachment, the Watergate nonsense and all that shit. But I think it really ramped up with Clinton, and I think that once the impeachment, which a lot of people don't realize that he got impeached too. I had a discussion with a good friend of ours one time, and she was like, "Oh, he didn't get impeached." I'm like, "What fucking planet did you live on?" He, like Trump, he didn't get thrown out of office. Trump got it twice. He got it once. But
Yeah.
I think that the level of disrespect on some level really ramped up during that guy's administration. The jokes, and the partisanship on some level. It really got, the country began, in my opinion, to really splinter at that point in terms of polarization. It wasn't just so much where, you got even guys like me who would kind of vote both ways, but really start to lean a certain way because they found the other side just so distasteful. Whether you're right or left and shit.
Yeah.
I saw a poll the other day where like Biden's approval ratings, like Trump's, have been really, really stable over the last couple of months. So he polls like right around about 53%. But here's the thing: almost 90% of Republicans disapprove of him. And it was the same thing with Trump. Almost
Yeah.
90% of the people on the left and the Democrats disapproved of him. And it just goes to show you, in terms of like the Guatemala thing, the level of disrespect and the polarization in this country is just, it's mind boggling. And look, I have a certain, opinion on on things and politics and stuff. I'm sure others maybe agree with me, disagree, but on some level, I just, I don't, I wish we could somehow come into the middle a little bit and meet, you know, kind of in the middle. And I think that the media does a really bad job of fanning the flames. Like you said, it's like the only way you can watch it, or the only way they get ratings, is by saying crazy shit about our politicians. And that's just a sad state of
Well,
affairs.
well, I mean, the news itself, like news programs itself, when they were originally invented, for like when television was invented, the FCC and all these regulatory bodies of government that were like started to regulate TV said, listen, you have to have like an hour a day of informative news. So like when the 50s and 60s, people just watched the news. A guy just read something. It
Yeah.
wasn't, the news was not sensationalized. Like Walter Cronkite didn't sensationalize the news. Your local newscasters didn't sensationalize anything. They just read what, hey, a guy got shot on 53rd Street and 2nd Avenue today. He was taken to the hospital. We'll give you more as this develops. And that was it. It
Yeah.
wasn't, lovely homeowner was attacked by a crazed man and we think it might be race related and all. Like it wasn't, they weren't looking for the jugular vein in every story. They weren't going for the sensationalism. They weren't going for that the TMZ angle for every story.
Well, look, we've talked about this over and over again. And look, you've seen it, as long as I've been on the show now for the last couple of months. It's very difficult to build up an audience. It's very difficult to
Yeah.
get people to watch your stuff, no matter how interesting you are or what kind of stuff that you have to say. And certain things I think are just like push button, likes or subscriptions or ratings or hits on a website. Even going back to Howard Stern. I mean, looking back, I mean, Mike, prior to when I came on the show, his biggest show was actually a podcast with a stripper, with an adult film star, which goes to show you how much porn, sells,
Yeah.
and I think that Howard Stern built a career on it. If you
Yeah.
take away the, all the strippers and the pornography and all the shit that he did, I don't know if he's as popular as he is today. I mean, that's the reality of it. And it's for like some of these stations, CNN, Fox, and stuff, for them not to be polarizing. I mean, why the fuck would you turn into, to see CNN or Fox, for that matter, unless they were, really saying outlandish shit or saying out, entertaining stuff on some level, depending on what side of the political spectrum that you run. But it just goes, in line with what we were talking about a couple shows ago about just declining TV ratings and shit in general. I mean, I just think that it's very difficult to attract people, and keep people entertained and, the ability for them to turn in and be, to watch your stuff or hear your stuff or
Yeah.
however. So I just think, I don't know, man. I wish things would change on some level, but I guess it's the way it is.
Like I said, it's too much money right now with advertising and everything. It's too much money. Like you said, it's divisive. It gets, they want to get people talking. They want to make money. They know, if the old saying, if it bleeds, it leads. So
Yeah.
they will go with whatever is going to sell a story. But enough of that bullshit.
Yeah, man.
35 years ago this week, I want to say it might be actually today or it might be tomorrow, a certain young boy skipped school and his name was Ferris Bueller.
Bueller. Yeah, man, an iconic movie of our teenage years, 1986, I think. Is that right?
Yes.
So, that movie, I brought it up, and I thought it was like one of those iconic movies that kind of encapsulates the 80s. Do you agree?
Yeah, it was like, I mean, listen, man, did we have a huge house like that though growing up in Astoria? No. But it's like, I mean, it described like that, I guess, like that Midwest kind of like lifestyle, your parents, upper middle class kid. And it's, it's one of the most, I guess, like iconic movies of the 80s.
It
Like,
is, and we
like,
ever talk about this about how John Hughes couldn't make some of these movies today?
yeah, we've talked, yeah. I
We
mean,
talked about that, right?
hmm
I think Ferris Bueller, I think he can kind of get away with it in today's, environment. But
oh, well,
yeah,
yeah. Oh, yeah. Like the scene where he, well, the funny thing now is like, say, like the scene where he changes all his absences and grades and everything. He could, he could just do that from his phone. He could just like create an app on his phone and do it or something. But
Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
yeah, I mean, I think he made a good point with the story. I mean, me and Mike growing up in Astoria in the 80s and the 70s, you're watching some of these movies in the Midwest, and you're like looking at these houses, and my dad's house and Mike's dad's house, they're a fraction of the size of even my house. They're maybe 1,500 square feet with a square plot in the back. Everybody, like, I remember when I first met my wife and she slept over. It was probably right around Hurricane Katrina. Not Hurricane Katrina, Sandy, right? We were staying with my parents, and we heard like every damn word that my next door neighbor Joanne was saying, like at 3 in the morning. And Audrey was like, I can't believe you grew up this way. How the fuck did you live like this? You guys like on top of each other. The guy's like having a party like on the rooftop next door, like 3 in the morning. So you hear everything that he's saying. You're like banging on the goddamn, the wall, just like, shut up, shut up, shut up, that kind of shit. And then you watch some of these movies like Ferris Bueller, and like you're looking at the house and how they live, and it's like, what teenager looks like that? Charlie Sheen was in it. Charlie Sheen must have been 30 years old at
yeah,
that point,
correct.
or right?
Did he have age
And
yet? I don't know if he had
I
age.
don't think so.
He looked
Jennifer
like it.
Grey, same shit. I mean,
Yeah.
she was in her 20s, whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Broderick was in his 30s, right?
I don't think he was. I'd say he was in his mid to late 20s,
Yeah,
probably.
easy, right?
Yeah. Let's see. I mean, yeah, he's got, I don't think he was 30. He's an old guy, but because
Who's the
he's,
most along this line, Mike? Who's the most unrealistic teenager in a movie or a popular TV show? Is it Ralph Macchio and Karate Kid, or is it like I guess the kids from Saved by the Bell, or I'm just trying to think out of box, or like even a guy like Damone from Fast Times at Ridgemont High. I mean,
well, Damone looked like he was 37
right?
selling Matthew Broderick. Okay, Matthew Broderick, when they made Ferris Bueller, was about 25,
Okay,
1962.
okay.
So,
Or even the guys from the Breakfast Club, right? Molly Ringwald, all
oh,
those guys, Bender.
Judd Nelson looked 37 in,
Right.
yeah, like he just got done fixing a car. Anthony Michael Hall looked young.
Yes.
Emilio Estevez looked 25.
Right.
Molly Ringwald looked early 20s, and was Ali Sheedy looked 30. Like
Right.
she looked like a crazy goth chick at
So
30.
me and Michael went to an all boys school, guys, and chicks were at a premium. When we were in high school, we both went to the same grammar school. It was co-ed. A lot of our friends went to St. John's Prep in Astoria, not too far from where we grew up. That was co-ed, but where me and Michael went, McClancy, at that time, it's now co-ed, but back in the day, it was an all boys school. And you know, I just remember the girls that we knew from the Mac and stuff, and I just trying to contrast it to these girls like in the movies, like even Ferris Bueller's Day Off. His girlfriend, for example, Matthew Broderick's girlfriend in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. What chick looked like that?
No, yeah. All right. The other chick, when it's Bueller, and she goes, I saw him at 31. That girl looked like 20. That was Christy Swanson, by the way.
Was she?
Yeah, she was she was like a nobody back then, but Christy Swanson, and she was smoking out. She looked like she was probably like 25 years old. Yeah, they just, I don't know why they always do that in movies, where it's
And
like,
TV shows too, like
yeah,
the chick by Saved by the Bell. Those girls, I mean, they look
yeah.
like super, old. I mean,
It's like, hey man, sex sells, right?
yeah, I guess. But no, I brought it up because it's an iconic movie. It's 35 years from now ago, and it had such a great soundtrack. It was a classic John Hughes movie. We talked about that stuff as far as his stuff being,
Yeah.
able to be made today. What stuff could he get away with and what stuff he could he not, what stuff wouldn't be made. I would agree with you, Mike. I think that the movie still gets made today.
Oh
I don't
yeah.
think there was that many non-politically correct scenes or, stereotypes that would kind of prevent it from being made. Although I guess it would probably be a little bit more diverse. Let's put it that way. I mean, I think a lot of those shows back in the '80s, diversity wasn't a real big deal back then. You know, I mean, I don't know,
Uh,
man.
it- you know, I mean, it was. It was supposed to be like an all white suburban neighborhood.
Right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, man.
That stupid song. It made it. That made that song famous. Remember?
You know what? You know what it was for me. I think you just hit it on the head, and I just brought it up. So, like growing up in Astoria, no matter what way I lean politically, I love all people and all races and creeds. And part of it is because of where me and Mike grew up. So in Astoria, you had all sorts of damn people from all different races, creeds, cultures, religions. It was like a melting pot, man. It was just like you go from block to block, school to
Yeah.
school, place to place. None of this shit phased you. But like when you watch some of these movies, I mean, maybe it was just me. I was like, that's not my neighborhood. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know what. Maybe McClancy was like that to an extent. I mean, McClancy was kind of undiversified back in the '80s, but
Well,
I
I'd say,
just don't.
yeah, I would say the majority when we were going there was like probably like 80% white, and then like probably like 17% Spanish, and maybe like 3% black,
Yeah,
around something like that, maybe.
yeah,
And the black guys all basically played on the basketball team, and they were like just left alone all day, and they got to play basketball.
yeah, man. I mean, it wasn't really.
It
I mean,
wasn't. I mean, we went.
Mac wasn't that way.
Yeah.
Where me and Mike went to grammar school, it was pretty diverse. St. John's Prep, I think, was pretty diverse too. But for whatever reason, McClancy reminded me of like the '80s Celtics. You know, just a lot of white people, a lot of white dudes, a couple sprinkles here and there. And I'll tell you what, for
A lot of angels and a lot of birds walking
yeah,
around.
yeah,
A lot of
absolutely.
a lot of McHales are walking around there.
Yeah, we had a couple of those guys, a lot of Rockaway kids, right?
Yeah, for some reason, man, that school was so far from Rockaway, and you had a bunch of kids. Dude, we had Rockaway, Howard Beach. Like, why would you live that far? Like, I mean, I still listen. I question this. Why didn't we go to St. John's? I
you
still, I still question that to this day, and I'm almost 50 years old.
know, why didn't we go to St. John's? I don't know. I think what happened to me, anyways, I was such a bad little kid at a Mac. I think what happened was I wanted to go to Malloy. That was my first pick, and they just didn't take me. I guess my grades weren't good enough, although I thought they were. Maybe my reputation. I don't know what the hell happened, but for all those out there who knew me in a Mac, I wasn't such a great kid back then. I'm not such a great kid now, but the mentality was I figured I'd go to an all boys school and I would calm down there and I would focus on my grades. At least me personally, that was kind of a little bit behind the decision making for me. And probably me and Michael, about 5 or 6 of our closest friends from Mac went to McClancy. Some of them transferred to St. John's, but I don't know. For me, I think I just thought I'd get into less trouble, with an all boys school versus like a co ed school,
Yeah, I
if
think.
that made sense.
Yeah, I think for me it was just like our core group of friends.
Right.
It was like the 5 or 6 of us, and it was like, all right, we're all gonna go to McClancy. All right, let's go.
Yeah, me and Michael had a good core group of friends that we grew up with. Maybe about 10 guys all
Yeah,
together, all different. Mostly white kids, but Italians, Irish kids for the most part, a couple Spanish kids. And we ended up going to McClancy. I mean, like I said, I think a couple guys ended up going to St. John's at some point. They didn't like the atmosphere or whatever. Which, listen, we could at some point talk about Catholic school movies. I guess there was an old one with Kevin McCarthy. What was the movie that he did back in the '80s?
oh, Kevin Dillon, heaven help us.
Heaven Help Us, which is a
Yeah.
great movie for those that are into that sort of thing. Movies from the '80s. That's a cool one to check out. It talks about the oppressive nature of Catholic schools, Catholic high schools in the '60s, and some good music, good cast. I think the chick from Some Kind of Wonderful was in
Yeah.
was in that. Kevin
Well,
Dillon was in it.
Kevin Dillon, Andrew McCarthy,
Right.
John Hurd was
Yes,
one of the brothers. Donald Sutherland plays one of the brothers.
that's right. John
Um,
Hurd was actually in The Sopranos too. I was doing me and Michael will
yeah,
talk a little bit about that in a couple minutes, but he played the detective who jumped
yeah,
off the bridge
yeah. He
in
was
The
the dirty
Sopranos.
cop. What was he on? 2 seasons? Was it like only two? He wasn't on that long, like two
No,
seasons.
no, no. He was maybe a season or two, and he was a good actor, man. I like John Hurd.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
was. He was. Yeah, he died way too young. I think he
What
was
did he
like in
die of?
his,
A heart attack, like at 70 or
yeah,
some shit?
something like that. Late 60s, early 70s. He just had a heart attack, and then
Yeah.
like Home Alone made him. So,
He had Home Alone, but he had a really good career, man. I
oh
mean,
yeah, he was in a ton of stuff.
he was in let's see, Home Alone, Home Alone 2, let's see, The Sopranos, let's see, Heaven Help Us. There's a couple other stuff in the 80s, The Pelican Brief, I think, in the 90s. White Chicks.
White Chicks,
Yeah, he was in that.
good for him. I don't,
Milagro Beanfield War. Oh, he was in Big with Tom Hanks in '89.
oh yeah,
Remember him?
he was the asshole boyfriend in Big.
Yes. Yep. Yep.
We saw that. No, I think me and you saw that in the movies together.
I think you're right.
I think me and you saw
Fantastic
that.
movie.
Me and you saw that at the Astoria.
I think you're right. I think
Yeah,
you're right. And
because we
I'll tell you
both
what, that movie's stood the test of time.
we both wanted that Giants hoodie, and I think you got it, and I never did.
Oh yeah, man. That and I lost that hoodie too. And
Uh,
now I think if you go on eBay, you can't find it anywhere.
that was an awesome hoodie with the Giants logo. It was the giant blue with
Right.
the logo across it. That was an awesome hoodie. And then
Yes.
because it came out, it got big because of Big,
Right.
and then it was like $100, and I was like, I don't have $100 to waste on a hoodie.
I was working at the time. I think that's how I got it, and somehow I found it. But a couple years ago, I looked around. I couldn't find the goddamn thing anywhere. I looked on eBay. I looked on Amazon. I Google searched it. Whacked out websites. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah,
But I heard was good. Heaven Help Us was good. And I wanted to talk about The Sopranos, man. June 19th is the anniversary, 14th anniversary of the last episode. And I saw a whole article. I saw this last year. And I got to tell you, I don't know what upsets me more, Mike. The death of Tony Soprano, which I'll go into in a second, or the death of Walter White in Breaking Bad. I know you never saw that.
I never saw that. Ah, you ruined it. Now I'm never watching it. No.
Sorry, folks. Sorry for being that guy. But I got to be honest with you, man. I was really upset. I was really upset years later after I came to the realization when it first happened. And for those that don't remember or not in the new, spoiler alert, the screen fades to black after the song Don't Stop Believing is played in the background, where Tony and his family are at this ice cream shop called Holstein's in New Jersey. And it keeps on flashing to this guy in a members only jacket. He's looking suspicious. The guy goes to the bathroom. Meadow's coming. She's late to the dinner or the thing. She's parking her car. The bell rings. The guy comes out of the bathroom. You don't see the guy. And the screen goes to black. And at the time, I was pissed. Like I think most of America.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the fuck happened to my TV? I'm like, what is this bullshit? The reason I brought it up is the anniversary is coming up, and it's almost it's going on almost 15 years. Next year will be the 15th anniversary. And I saw an article by David Chase, and I guess somehow they were asking him about the scene in Holstein's, and he referred to it as the death scene. And he goes, after he referred to it as the death scene, the reporter said, you just referred to the Holstein as the death scene. He goes, we were supposed to film the death scene 2 years earlier. And I guess when he got caught in it, the guy said, he re-asked him the question. And I guess Chase got pissed. He's like, fuck you, fuck you for trapping me into saying that. But it confirmed what I, came to the realization that Tony got whacked. I mean, I think some people disagree with me, but fade to black, the episode, I guess the first episode of the 6th season where he's with Bobby Bacala and they talk about you never hear it coming and it just fades to black. There was a lot of foreboding that went through the show in the last season, but I figured we bring it up. it was such a popular show, and
I love this show. I thought it was a great show. My thing was I heard this story too, that like Don't Stop, everyone remembers the Journey song playing.
right.
And Steve Perry, I think, still owns the rights to the song, Steve Perry from Journey. And he said, he goes, you can use it. There can't be any violence in the scene. He goes, it's such an upbeat song. He goes, you're not going to have this upbeat song and then
Ruin it.
his brains get splattered everywhere. So I wonder
Yeah.
if that had something to do with the scene that because Chase is kind of like, if we really want to get into a movie, Chase is kind of like Scorsese, where it's all about a soundtrack. Like
Yeah.
if you go back into the Sopranos and the music he used on that show was just, it just fit every scene so well.
And Mike, that's such an excellent point, man. Being a DJ, the use of music by Scorsese and Chase is absolutely phenomenal. You know, I've bought the soundtrack, I've listened, I've watched those episodes tons of times. The stuff that they use, so goddamn good. I mean, there's a song called "Evidently Chicken Town" by John C. Clarke. I guess when Phil Leotardo is ruminating about compromises that he made in his life, he goes, "I wanted mighty gut. I settled for like this. I wanted a woman. I jerked off in a tissue. That's how I compromised." And then he goes, "No more, Butchie." And then it goes to this ominous song called "Evidently Chicken Town." Or like one of my favorites, like he's being chased. Phil Leotardo's being chased by Tony, and the Clash is "Rock the Cash Bar" is being played in Tony's car as he's chasing him. So many good songs, man. And I think you're right. I think
yeah,
go ahead.
Phil Leotardo, best death on the show, possibly. It's up there. He's up. He might be like a top 2 or a top 3 deaths on the show.
Frank Vincent was phenomenal, man.
What a great yeah.
What a great actor he was.
He was a singer with Joe Pesci back in like the 50s and 60s. They were in like a band.
Unfortunately for me, both him and Tupac died on my birthday, September 13th. And he died at 80 of a heart attack. Tupac, we know how he went. But no, I'm a big fan of Frank Vincent, whether it was Raging Bull or if it was Goodfellas, Go Home, Get Your Shine Box, whether it was The Sopranos with Phil, which I think might have been his greatest role of them all, to be honest with you. He was so goddamn good in that.
Well, you know what it was? It was one of those things where they gave him a nice little arc of a character, too. It wasn't like, where he's in a movie for 40 minutes as a bad guy and he usually winds up getting whacked. He was great, by the way. You brought up like all his greatest hits. I loved him in Casino.
Oh, phenomenal, man.
I thought he was great as like Pesci's little, and I watched an interview with him probably like a couple of years before he died. And he goes, you know what? Joe Pesci kicked my ass and killed me in 2 movies.
And I got my revenge in that one. Yeah, I saw that.
And he goes, and I finally got my revenge on that little bastard. And if you ever watch that scene again, next time you watch it where they're beating Pesci and the guy playing his brother with bats.
Right.
The bats are made of like foam. You can actually watch the bats bend when they hit them.
Oh, like such a brutal way to die, man.
Oh yeah, and they're buried. And that I read a thing online that was true. They got buried alive. That was a message.
Oof.
They just beat them with bats till they were like basically unconscious.
Guys back home had enough.
Yeah. These old guys, they don't like guys fucking the other guy's wives. It's bad for business.
No good.
It's bad.
Are you fucking the Jew's wife? No, not at all.
No.
Goes, that's bad for business. The guys back home, they don't like that sort of thing. Dude, such a good movie. Casino is probably one of my favorites of them all. And you're right.
I love the scene when they all go to court at the end. And they're all like, and they all go like, who's getting whacked and who's getting...
And the guy in the wheelchair is like with the breath and shit. He's like, I like him, but whatever.
No, he goes, well, it's the whole thing. He goes, well, what do you think about Stone? Stone, he's a good guy. He's a great guy. Remo, what do you think? Why take a chance?
We knew a Remo. Remember the guy from the comic store in Astoria?
Yeah.
For those who are watching, I work with a couple guys from Astoria at my place of business and stuff. So if you guys are watching it, I don't know if you guys remember, but there was a guy named Remo who ran that comic shop, I guess on Steinway and
23rd,
right? 23rd Avenue. Yeah, Remo. That was so good, man.
What do you think, Remo? Why take a chance?
Why take a chance? Nah, but
Yeah,
you know what cemented it for me with the Soprano, with Tony getting whacked for me was when, unfortunately, when Gandolfini passed away. I'm like, just kind of hit home. I got a good friend Tony. We were taken back by it. I mean, the guy wasn't. Well,
he was
was he
like 52 or like 50.
51 years old? I mean, he's a
Yeah,
little bit older than us at this point, and just goes to Italy. He's eating shrimp. I guess he lived kind of wild life and stuff. Although he was really a nice guy, from what I understand. He was eating shrimp in Italy, and he just had a heart attack. I mean, I guess he had some sort of drug problem on some level. I mean, I guess he abused drugs on some level. I don't know that to be
yeah,
fact, or maybe it's hearsay, but and he was a big dude too. I mean, so that probably contributed as well. But
yeah. I think he was one of those guys too that was like, because they said every year they did the show. What's her name? Edie Falco. Her and Edie Falco would gain weight for the show because
okay,
it's supposed to be this big Italian family where all they do is eat. She said she would gain at least 20 pounds before the show started, and I think like he would do the same.
he was a big dude, man.
Yeah,
He really was.
he looked
But
like a big guy. I mean, you see old pictures of him and stuff, like in his playing basketball.
yeah.
He's about 6'3", 6'4", or whatever.
But when he passed away, I remember me and my buddy Tony were working, and it happened, and we're like, it just felt so final, and like the theory about him getting whacked at the end of the scene, it kind of cemented it for me. It's like there's gonna be no sequel. There's gonna be no
Yeah,
oops, okay. There's gonna be another story with him. It was a finality to it, if that makes sense. And it hit me, man. Look, Tony was a scumbag. I mean, any way you want to cut it, but like Walter White, and I think we talked about this too. He was like one of those guys that you knew he was a bad dude. He did morally effed up stuff, but there was some level where you appreciated his humor, you related
yeah.
to him on some level, and you liked him,
Well,
even though
like
he did bad shit.
I think if you look at any of those shows that like become these somewhat iconic shows, Chris, they take like a normal kind of subject matter and instead of just putting it this way, they just turn it that way a little bit. Like
Yeah,
Tony Soprano, all they did was like, let's see his fucked up home life.
yeah,
That's exactly what that show was. They showed his fucking the dynamic between his wife, his mother, his girlfriend, his uncle who hates him, and all this shit. And then it's like, and on top of it, let's put him in therapy and give him Prozac. And now
and
he's
you know
got to
what? I
like
think I
be
think the commonality, Mike, is you kind of hit it on that, but also, I mean, a guy like Archie Bunker. I mean, for all intents and purposes, Archie was a racist. You should have disliked Archie. The shit that came out of his mouth, maybe,
yeah, but no.
no.
You say what you're gonna say, and then
So what
I'll
I said is like, even though he said distasteful shit, and maybe the climate was different back in the early '70s and stuff, the reality of it is, even though he said crazy racist shit, you still liked Archie because you knew he had a heart of gold. Same deal with Soprano. Same deal with Walter White. Like, for me personally, I think Walter White and I think Soprano were a little bit more darker, but I
yeah.
think their heart was good, even though they did bad shit. If that makes sense.
Yeah, all right. No, I kind of see where you're at with that, but like for Archie Bunker, they made him very stupid as well. You,
Yes.
you couldn't make a smart conservative. I mean,
No.
you'll say racist or bigot, but he was basically towing the conservative line on the show, and
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
you couldn't have a smart conservative. Meathead was the smart, super smart liberal,
Right. Right.
and
Right.
his downfall was just he didn't have a job and he was useless. But he had a brain.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Archie was just a dumb blue collar schmo who didn't know how to pronounce certain words and just wanted to drink beer and watch TV and tell you
Yeah.
if you don't speak the language, get out of the country, and he'd mispronounce some words every now and again.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think I think the commonality with all three of those guys is like on some level they really did or said bad shit. And I think on some level, for me, I mean, I related to them on some level in the sense that I think the intentions were good on some level with all three of them. Probably Soprano is probably the
So
least out of all three of them, I
he
think.
killed
But
his nephew.
yeah,
He murdered
but
his
even that, I'm in a Sopranos Facebook page, right? And they were talking about that scene where the guys, they get into a car accident and Chris is messed up. He's bleeding. And Tony glances back into the back seat and he sees that, there's a baby chair and the tree is right through the middle of the baby seat. And I think he made a decision at that point. We were all discussing it about the guy was a liability. He was a drug addict. he didn't like Tony at that point. If you remember, he had the girlfriend whacked, and he was making these movies about him. You know that the horror movie, right?
The horror movie, yeah.
So on some level, I think it was kind of like his foster son, and I think that it was really shocking to see him kill him at the end. But he was a liability. You know, I think that Tony made a decision that, you know, the guy is never going to recover from this drug addiction, that he loves his daughter so much, little baby daughter, but here he is whacked out of his mind. And he looked at that child scene and he's like, you know what? Maybe he doesn't make it out of the accident, you know, whatever. So I looked at it a couple different ways. A couple people said the same thing. I mean, it was messed up that he killed him, you know, and of course he did more heinous shit throughout the series as well. But, you know, I think there were some things that, you know, I think he loved his family. I think that was, you know, a reoccurring thing with some of these guys. Same thing with Archie, same thing with Walter White. You know, I think the commonality with all three of them that resonates with me is that I love my family. I know you do as well. And I think that these guys, even though they did bad shit, they love their families.
Yeah, they would do anything for their family.
So.
Yeah, I get it.
But, all right, I guess enough of that. I just wanted to bring it up. I saw the anniversary coming up, and I figured it'd be a good time to ruminate about it. You know, 15-year anniversary is coming up, and later on this year, you got the Saints of Newark coming out, which I'm sure
when is that supposed? Is that supposed to come out in like September?
September's coming out.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see. It's going to talk about young Tony, him in the '60s.
Yeah.
I guess it's going to talk about the father. It's going to talk about. I think the son is playing him. Michael Gandolfini is James's son, and he's going to be portraying him as a young Tony Soprano. I don't know really the rest of the cast. I think Ray Liotta's in it actually.
Yeah, I think Ray Liotta, the guy who played the Punisher in Netflix, and he was in Wolf of Wall Street, John Bernthal. I think he's in it. I don't know who he's playing, but I know he's in it.
Okay.
And that's about it. We'll see what happens. Oh, what else did you have? You had underrated TV shows we were talking about.
Yeah, man. So I was bringing it. I brought this up because I was just glancing through Netflix, and this is another topic. So we're at the beach last night, and we're talking about this with some friends, and we were talking about how you go through Netflix, right? And I don't know if anybody out there can relate to this. So Netflix, it takes you like 20 minutes to watch, to find something that you're actually interested in sometimes. Yeah. Like you're going through the goddamn menus and stuff, and it's like, you can't find anything. Yeah. So anyways, I came across Friday Night Lights, and I'm like, I watched it back in the day, and I'm like, this is such a goddamn good show. I'm like, you know what? And it's like one of those shows that's underrated. It's like, it had a cup of tea, I guess, on NBC, I think back in the day. And it kind of took off a little bit of Netflix, and it just kind of got swept under the rug. And I just know there are so many shows like that are out there on Netflix and Hulu and stuff that people come across that, in hindsight, it's like, I just don't think they got their due. Do you have any of them like that, Mike? I mean, there are a couple others that come to mind, but that Friday Night Lights for me is probably one of the biggest ones.
I'll go back a little further and say, what I thought was one of the funniest TV shows ever was the Ben Stiller Show. Like
very funny.
91, 92. I think it only did like 2 seasons, and then the ratings were just horrific, and it got canceled. But like, I was looking up a list, and I have this list here, and it's like pretty much all like recent shows. There's a show Superstore. I think it's on NBC. It's about like a mega store. It's a sitcom. There was that Mr. Robot. My wife saw it. She said it was very good. My kids started watching Schitt's Creek.
Okay.
Supposedly that's hilarious. That's Eugene Levy and his son. I think they created the show. I think it's about rich people becoming poor. But I heard it's hilarious. Black Mirror. I don't know if you ever see. That's on Netflix. That's it's kind of like a Twilight Zone deal.
Okay.
I watched like 1 episode of it. Not too bad. This other show looked really good. It's on Amazon, called Patriot, and it's with the guy who played Red on that '70s show, the bad guy from RoboCop. Whatever, Kurtwood Smith, and who the hell else was the other guy? Some other old guy, and they play like old spies, and I think it's kind of like a comedy / action thing. I'm gonna look it up probably tonight, maybe, and check it out. Another show, and it's an HBO show, and I don't consider this really an underrated show. I don't know if you ever watch it, The Wire.
I watched it from top to bottom, and there's a lot of people out there that I know, and I've read reports that they consider it the greatest sitcom of all time, even
Nope.
greater than The Sopranos, All in the Family. A lot of I've read a lot of reports where it's definitely not underrated. There's no question about it. It
Yeah,
gets,
yeah. I don't know how it made this list, and
yeah,
I'm like, I don't think it's. I think too, it was in the maybe like when it was on, it was in the shadow of The Sopranos for a little bit.
it was, but I think it just got such critical acclaim throughout the years that anything that I read about best sitcoms of all time, it's always mentioned.
Yeah.
And I think there's a case that people make that it's the greatest, based on the diversity of it, the storyline, the cast. It's a fantastic show, man. I've watched it, from
Oh
top to
yeah.
bottom. It's a long, long time since I've watched it. It's probably a good
Yeah. I
five,
think
6 years, maybe. But once in a while, I'll just go back and I'll rewatch these shows, like The Sopranos, for example. I just go back and I just go on HBO Max and rewatch it. Game of Thrones, same crap. Sons of Anarchy, which I don't know if you consider an underrated show. I mean, that's another one that I go
uh,
back.
Sons of Anarchy. I haven't seen since it went off. My buddy Jack does. I think he does like a 3 year per 3 year re up every year of The Sopranos.
Okay.
Like he's a diehard Sopranos fan, and he will go into The Sopranos pretty much like every 2 to 3 years. He'll just rewatch the whole series.
Yeah, I kind of do the
I,
same. I just go more episode to episode when I'm in a mood for it. I just put it on. I mean, some of it's dated at this point, but I guess
yeah,
all stuff does to an extent, right?
yeah, it's like anything. After like a few, you're like, how come they don't have smartphones in this scene, and what, or why, or like it
It's
just,
20. It's 20 years ago.
yeah, it is.
I mean, think about it.
It is very odd watching movies just from like 15 years ago that like don't the technology has not caught up yet.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
like you think Tony's a badass just because he has like OnStar in his car, like, oh, he's a millionaire. It's like, yeah, I have a phone, I can do the same exact thing, you know.
Well, I don't know if you. I mean, you must have seen Wall Street, right? With Michael Douglas, and
Yeah.
he's on the beach with that brick telephone,
Yeah.
right? And you think he's like, oh, he's this rich goddamn guy, or like even Hot Tub Time Machine. When they flash back and they start off the movie where they're on the ski slope, and the guy, hey man, I'm on my phone, dude, and I'm
Yeah.
skiing, and he's got like this huge brick shit in his hand. I mean,
I think that's how like every cell phone conversation started in like 1994. Dude, you know where I am? I'm at the beach. I'm on my phone, man. I'm on a phone right now.
how do we get to that point? We went from beepers to like, was it from beepers straight to cell phones, or was there something in between?
Well, remember the cool beeper that had the text on it?
Yes.
Like you could text. That was kind of like the step up, and then you went to that giant gray flip phone. That's what
I
I
think
remember.
I remember like during
I
our high school years, it was the beeper. The beeper
yeah.
was the
Oh
thing.
yeah.
The beeper was the thing. And then it progressed to the point where you start to see it a little bit on television. And then I guess by the time my last year of college, I guess that's when I start to really see smaller phones, right?
Yeah.
I remember a couple of my buddies having some of the bigger ones in their cars and shit, that kind of deal.
Oh yeah. When guys just had it hooked up in their cars, they had that
Let me
gooseneck.
ask you a question.
And
Was in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, did they have a car phone? I'm trying to remember.
I don't know if the
Was there a car phone at some point? I mean, this is 1986, remember?
I don't remember now.
I'd have to go back and watch. I'm almost thinking like there was a car phone at some point. I don't know. I don't think so, but I'd have to go back and watch, man.
Oh man, yeah, you got me now. I have no idea. I met Ed Rooney.
I know you were telling me that a
Yeah.
couple episodes ago.
Yeah, I got to meet Ed Rooney.
He's an interesting character, man.
Yeah, he's a Ed Rooney. If you want to, what's his name? James. I don't know. The guy that played Ed Rooney was into like kiddie porn, and he got caught.
I think he got busted, dude.
Yeah, he did. I don't think he did time, but like he's
Jeffrey Jones.
Jeffrey Jones. He's the kind of guy that like has to register. He's got to probably register as a sex offender, man. Fuck that guy, man. Weirdo.
Who do you think got jammed up more, him or what's his face? The guy from American Beauty.
That's two different levels, man. Like that guy Jeffrey Jones is kind of like a character actor kind of guy. Kevin Spacey has 2 Academy Awards.
No, I'm not talking about the popularity. Obviously, Spacey's the bigger
Yeah,
actor.
yeah.
There's no question about it. I'm just saying in terms of like how they got jammed up. This guy got kind of caught with kiddie porn and shit, and Spacey's got all sorts of allegations.
Well, he's got like allegations, and now they all went away. Like one guy died, and that was
There's a
kind of
lot of
like,
shit on him, man. I mean, there's a lot of stories on Spacey, man. It's just not one thing. I
well,
don't think
that
he went to jail for it like this guy did, but
well, I mean, there was a story about him years ago getting mugged in England, and where he was, it was like one of the, like a lot of times, like city, and it was prevalent too in like Manhattan a lot. City parks, a lot of times like people go there for like gay sex.
yeah.
Like gay men will congregate there looking for a good time. It's not prostitution or anything like that. It's like they're just looking to hook up.
Yeah, just areas
And
where they're known for that stuff.
And he was in like some park in London that was known for that at like 2:30 in the morning, and he got his ass kicked and he got mugged over there. And like they kind of just swept it under the rug that he got mugged, and then people started saying like, oh well, what happens over there at like late at night,
So Jones got the guy from Ferris Bueller got busted for child pornography, and he got accused by a 17-year-old for, I guess he was asking him to pose nude for like photographs and shit. And Spacey, I think there's like really serious shit like raping a 14-year-old, that kind of shit. 14-year-old.
The one actor came out and said something, but then I don't think he wanted anything prosecuted because he said it was like 30 years ago. I just wanted to be known, but I'm not doing anything about it. And then there was another kid that came out and he died. I know that. I know the one where it was supposed to be where he was supposed to be prosecuted. That person died.
So I'm looking at the Wikipedia thing on it, and it's funny. It doesn't really go into a lot of details on it. It's like almost like you said, it was buried under the rug. But the long and short of it was that he got accused of sexually assaulting an adult male in '92. 3 more allegations in Scotland Yard. I think kind of like what you were talking about, like him messing around in spots in London. Then he got a lawsuit filed against him for, I guess, assaulting a masseuse or monsieur in his house in California. And then he got charged with a felony for allegedly sexually assaulting some journalist's son in Massachusetts.
That's the kid that died. I think that kid died.
Okay. And then let's see. Dude, there's like 4 or 5 things against Spacey. And the funny thing was, you talk about underrated shows. I liked House of Cards a lot. I don't know if you consider that a underrated show, but that was decent.
I wouldn't consider it underrated. That was a great show. And then they just like, oh shit. That was a total oh shit moment for that show. They had that show was like so building up, and then it was like, oh, he's a fucking kid toucher. You're fired.
All right, and it's funny. I read something about him where I think he's kind of got blacklisted at this point in terms of like he's doing stuff.
Yeah, he's doing like another movie, but it's like in Italy right now. I think it's like an Italian production. Like, yeah, he's one of those guys. He's gonna be like, what's his face, Roman Polanski.
Yeah.
Like, you're just stay in Europe. Just stay in Europe and make a movie every couple of years or whatever.
I think you're right.
I was just watching a thing, listening to something about like Woody Allen. Woody Allen was known for making one movie every year. For the last like 50 years, he's made a movie every year. Whether they're good, bad, or indifferent, a lot of them suck. Some of them are funny. But he can no longer get financing to make any of these. Everyone's pulling out. No one wants to be associated with this guy, especially since that documentary that just came out a few months ago about him. That completely like canceled him, shut him down. He's done. Like, he cannot make movies anymore.
And talking about canceling and stuff, and we talked about ratings a couple of months ago with the Golden Globes. So I guess Tom Cruise pulled out of the Golden Globes. Yeah, I guess because of the lack of diversification. And it looks like NBC canceled the show. It looks like it's no longer going to be broadcast on broadcast television, which we called a couple episodes ago. I think the ratings were so bad, and I think it took an actor like Cruise to pull out of it. Where he's not going to be affiliated with it. He's not going to accept any awards. He's not going to go to it. His pretense is based on, I guess, lack of racial diversification in Hollywood, which he's, to be honest with you folks, I mean, he's part of. I mean, you want to point fingers and saying, hey, listen, there's not enough diversification. Dude, Cruise is a huge actor. He's got a huge pull. You know, you really want to make diversified movies? Hey, put your money where your mouth is. You know, I mean, that's my take on it, anyways. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm all for it, but don't point fingers and all of a sudden make these movies and
yeah.
seems hypocritical.
Well, we'll see. What is he doing? He's doing the new Mission Impossible. Let's see how many diverse people are in that. So,
Yeah, yeah. And I was
so.
reading some. I guess his set got closed down because of COVID.
Oh
Which
yeah,
he had a blow.
he had a meltdown.
He had a meltdown. He had a meltdown in December. Like he basically threatened his crew,
Yeah,
saying, "Hey, look, if you don't, wear masks and socially distance and this and that, you'll never work again." And I guess they were on scene and stuff, and I guess 9 people contracted COVID, and it got shut down anyways. And I think he had a shit fit, but whatever, whatever. I tell you what, Mike. I mean, I went out the last couple days. It looks like really COVID's over at this point. I mean, I'm going to bars, I'm going to beaches and shit. Nobody's
yeah,
wearing masks anymore. I mean, it looks like we're up to about 50% vaccinated people in the United States at this point. I'm reading a lot of high profile athletes who seem to be like kind of voicing their opinion that they're not going to take it, especially these baseball guys. And they're kind of getting crucified for it. I'm like, to each his own. Look, you
yeah,
and me had it. I'm not vaccinated. I got my antibody test a couple of weeks ago from the doctors. He recommended against it. I probably will get it at some point, especially if I end up back in my office in September or if my DJ
yeah,
gigs really pick up, which they have. But it just seems like things are almost back to normal. Looks like the kids are going back to school without masks. And it's September. It looks like it's going to be business as usual for a lot of people. But yeah, I wanted to mention that.
yeah. It does. It does seem like in the city. I was in the city a couple of days ago, and it does look like like it is. Some people are wearing masks, some people aren't. Pretty much if you go into a store now, no one's telling you got to put anything on.
Right. Dude,
So
there was security at my supermarket up the block from me. And I guess basically what this guy was doing, like you'd walk into the supermarket, you get your little carriage, you walk in, and this guy was standing there, like a big dude. And it's like, why the hell is security at a supermarket, like right in front of the door? And the only thing I could think of was people were coming into the supermarket without a mask, I guess at the height of the pandemic. And I just felt, all of a sudden that guy's no longer there. So, but hey, did you check out the Islanders the other day? I mean, I'm not an Islander fan anymore, but I saw
yes,
something really cool.
yeah. I saw the video. I saw the video for it. I thought it was very patriotic.
So basically, what happened, folks, is I guess the announcer stopped singing on some level, and I guess the rest of the crowd picked up where she left off.
Yeah,
They
the
sang in
audio.
unison.
Yeah, the audio went out, and like 15,000 people sang the national anthem. I've seen it before in like other things, where everyone the same kind of thing. Like the audio went out, and then everyone just starts singing. So I thought it was nice. I thought it was it warmed the cockles of the heart on that one. I thought it was good. The you.
Nah, it's good stuff, man. It's good stuff. And you know what? It's stuff like that that kind of, makes you believe that, on some level, despite the divisive bullshit that you see in the media and,
Yeah.
even sometimes I spew, guys. I mean, I'm sorry if you take it that way. I really don't mean it. It gives you hope. Gives you hope that, as a
Yeah.
country, we can kind of come together on certain things, that are, kind of cut through the political bullshit one way or the other.
Yeah.
So,
Did you were you able to watch? Did you watch that Loki show yet?
no, it hasn't come out yet, I don't think, but I
I
will
thought it
check
was.
it out.
I thought it
I
was
mean,
out.
Loki's one of my favorite characters from the Avengers. I mean, he happens to be one of the guys from the Avengers, which, by the way, is another show that I just find it kind of odd. It's like so many of those guys that are on the Avengers, they're so goddamn political. It's just like, between the Hulk, between Captain America. It's just like, shut the fuck up. I mean, seriously. I mean,
Mark.
this guy Ruffalo is like constantly just saying. I think he got jammed up a couple weeks ago. He said some anti-Israel stuff.
Yeah, Hulk. Sorry.
And, right, Hulk. Sorry. Right, right. Looks like such an asshole. Like
He's
one of those guys that.
He Hulk. Sorry.
Right.
Like someone called him up, like Booby, baby, Booby. Shut the fuck up. You better retract that now. Do you ever want to work in show business again?
Seriously.
Hulk, sorry.
I just saw some shit with the going back to politics for a second. I saw some shit from the I guess the nut job up in Minnesota, Ilian or whatever the hell her name is, comparing I guess the United States and Israel to Hamas and some sort of fucking terrorist organization. And I think that the Democrats, I think Pelosi and them really try to shut her down because they're like,
yeah,
it's not a good comparison, man. I mean, I don't give a shit what you think.
Yeah,
I mean,
they are, especially. I mean, like we never really talked about the whole Israel Palestine thing, but you notice like certain politicians just shut up. They weren't gonna. No one was gonna put their foot in their mouth on that, but then when you have like the squad coming out and basically going anti-Israel, like you said, like someone like Pelosi's like, yo, shut the fuck up.
Look, I got a lot of Jewish friends. I had an Israeli professor at Stony Brook that broke down the conflict. And he basically, in a nutshell, said, you're never going to get peace there. You know, in 1968, they had the 7-Day War. Israel wiped out all these countries. And basically, I guess they annexed property, right? And essentially what they did is they settled it, and the Palestinians took umbrage with it. So they commit bad shit. Israel retaliates, and it goes back and back and back and forth. Then you got the other piece where it's a holy land. I mean, it's really a holy land for like 3 or 4 major religions. So it's like you're talking about holy land, you're talking about annexed land from 1968, and you're talking about like, you know, really, really just horrendous shit that goes down there. I mean, innocent people on both sides get killed, but you know, just you look at some shit like that comes out of this woman's mouth, this congresswoman no less, comparing the U.S. and comparing Israel to like a fucking terrorist, organization. Dude, shut up. I mean, seriously. And I think that's what Ruffalo did too. I mean, he made some stupid fucking comments. I think Eddie Vedder made some comments too from Pearl Jam a couple years ago. He said, I guess, something anti-Israel as well, which I think kind of got him in hot water too. I mean, one of his songs, he started rambling before the show went on. But going back to the Avengers and Loki for a second without getting too much off topic, I haven't seen Loki yet. I will check it out. And like I said, I just found it kind of odd, that there's so many actors on that goddamn show that are just like, number one, they all lean left, with the exception, I think, of maybe Thor. And he doesn't really say much.
He's Australian. He don't count.
Yeah. But
and Robert Downey Jr. is smart. He don't say nothing. He's just like, hey man, this was my 85th chance in Hollywood.
Well, you know what I heard with him was that I think on some level, I guess coming out of his like his late 80s stuff, I think a lot of studios didn't want to hire him. And I think it was like a mission to get him cast as Iron Man because he had a reputation of being a nut job, a drug addict, very difficult to work with. And to the point where I think a lot of studios, what they were doing, I guess they were going out of their way to get insurance on the guy, as far as him not showing up for stuff or. So I think that plays a part of him being like a little bit quiet. I think he's a little bit grateful in the sense that people hired him and made him a multimillionaire, one of the biggest actors in America, right?
He better fucking. I watched a thing on Stern with him where he talked about going in for the audition for Iron Man and how humble he was and how he just went like balls to the wall. He was like, fuck it. If I don't get it, I don't get it, but I'm going to give it my all. And he went in there as like this kind of like the cavalier attitude that we all know him now as like Tony Stark. And that just put him over the edge with like Favreau and all of them like, okay, you got it.
Yeah, I think that's really why he keeps quiet, Mike. I really don't think he...
He's grateful, man.
Yeah. But how about... I was checking out, maybe, I don't know if we have enough time to discuss it, but I wanted to bring up like going back like the Sopranos and the Ferris Bueller and the retro shit that we brought up. How about this? What's the greatest comedies over the last 20 years? I've got 4 of them. And I saw one that's constantly on all the time. And these are movies like Animal House and Blues Brothers back in the 70s that I think that universally, it doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, what your background is, I think you'll agree are just goddamn hysterical. And they're old school, Wedding Crashers, The Hangover, and there's one more that I'm forgetting. There's like 3 or 4 of them. But
Wedding,
which
Super Bad,
Superbad's up there. But I think the big 3 is Old School, Wedding Crashers, and The Hangover.
Step Brothers. Step
Not
Brothers.
on that level. I mean, I think
I'll give you one, and it's a sleeper pick, and I think it's one of the funniest movies. It's an Adam Sandler. Adam Sandler produced it. It was called Grandma's Boy, and it is hilarious. It's with one of the guys. I think his name's Alan Covert. He's always in the Sandler movies. He's like one of his friends he grew up with or went to college with that he always puts in his movies, and he's the star of the movie. You have who else is in it? There's a young Jonah Hill in it, like a 19-year-old, like pre-Superbad Jonah Hill.
Fat Jonah Hill or skinny Jonah Hill?
Super fat Jonah Hill. Like
I like super fat Jonah Hill.
Who's the? I think Justin Long's in it as a nobody. Nick Swartz in it is really funny. Kevin Nealon's in it. It's a real funny movie. It's all about just smoking pot and playing video games. And if you've never seen the movie, find it, watch it. It is hilarious, man. Adam Sandler, I think, he produced the movie. He's not in it, but he is hilarious in it.
Is he from Massachusetts or is he from somewhere else?
Adam Sandler?
Yeah.
I think he was born in Brooklyn and then like grew up in New Hampshire. Something like that, or Vermont, some shit like that. Somewhere in New England.
Did you check, Mike, his movie, I guess, where he's the diamond guy, where Francesca was in it?
Yeah. Weird movie. Uncut Gems.
Uncut Gems. What you think about that?
I thought it was a very odd movie. I didn't think it, you heard all these things that he was going to get nominated for the Oscar.
Right.
But I didn't think it was that great. It was okay. All he did was play like a degenerate gambler.
I think it was out of character for him.
Yeah, I mean, he's a great actor, but it was like an okay movie.
We had a heated discussion the other day about it with a couple of friends of ours, and with, like, some guys are like so adamant against Sandler, like they think like I guess that Halloween movie that he made last year really didn't go over too well. They were like, he just did that fucking annoying voice throughout the entire movie, like Waterboy and shit, like, just to the point where it's like, shut up, dude. You're not funny.
Dude, yeah, the funny. I was just on Pat Dixon's show the other day, and we talked about Adam Sandler for 5 minutes, and the exact same thing. Like, he does a bunch of movies with the goofy voice, and like I say this about Adam Sandler all the time. Say whatever you want about the guy's movies. I think he's one of the most loyal dudes in Hollywood. Because anytime he makes a movie, he just gets all his friends together.
Yes.
All those guys from SNL, whenever he does the grown-ups movies, or all those Cinemax, the Netflix movies, he's throwing all his friends in those movies. And it looks like he's just there for a goof and a good time. And if the movie,
I like him, I happen to like him, but like my wife, for example, and I think there's a lot of women out there that just can't stand the guy.
Yeah, there's some people that just hate him. But
they're like, my wife especially, like, she can't watch anything from the guy. She's like, this guy's a dick. Like, Billy Madison, Happy Gilmore, that type of shit. She's like, I can't stand this guy.
Those movies are classics.
The Saturday Night Live skits, the Hanukkah song, which was great. I mean,
no, I love the guy. I love some of his movies are just pure. Happy Gilmore, Billy Madison.
I'll give you one, a retro 80s one, The Wedding Singer. How good was that?
Yeah. Another great classic movie.
Get out of the way, Billy.
Great movie. And then he did the other one with the 50 First Dates.
Yeah.
I mean, like he gets his little. He makes very good movies. He made $6 billion at the box office, I said. So I think he's doing something right. So,
yeah, I agree.
Oh shit, man, we're over a little.
We are over, rocking and rolling. Have a good time, man.
It's a good time.
Let the good times roll.
Let's get some plugs in. Let's start wrapping this bad boy up.
Yeah, man. All right, so let's start with DJ Chris Clash, man. Check me out, www.chrisclash.com. I am now almost officially booked through August. So I actually have one date in particular that is double booked. You know, the people are going back and forth. I can't tell you, folks. I mean, if you're getting married, if you got parties going on, get in touch with me now. And listen, don't just check me out. I mean, just in general, I think it's going to be very hard for people to get vendors these days. Me and my wife were out in Lowe's last week, Sunday afternoon. There was nobody working. Me and Mike didn't get around to it today, but we were going to talk about people not going back to work, people quitting, rage quitting their jobs. And when it comes to vendors and stuff like this, I suggest to anybody out there, you better book in advance. You know, I'm very grateful for it because I'm going to be very busy. But check me out. I'll hook you up. You know, if you mention the show, I'll do my best to work with you pricing wise and date wise. Check out Jay Cristiano at Cardinal Financial. If you're in the market for any sort of like repurchases, or if you're like, I don't know, for example, buying a house, any of those things, give Jay a call. His telephone number is 844-442-7334. Use the code 4215. You can check out Katie's in Smithtown, New York. It's a place maybe we'll talk about come Halloween. It's a place, one of my old haunts that he just recently went back to follow a band called LimeWire and O.L. Moore, which does 70s, 80s, and 90s cover hits. They're really good group of guys. Brian's actually been on Paranormal Investigations, which we'll talk about maybe at some point. It's a pretty interesting place, pretty interesting show. But Katie's is on Main Street in Smithtown. And Leslie, check out La Familia and check out Insignia, both in Smithtown. Good eats, good places, and that's pretty much all I got for tonight.
All right. Like I said, want to thank you guys. We're closing in on 5,000 views soon. Check out my buddy Jack at I Can Paint on Instagram. Provmatic on Twitch. Check him out. And as always, Pat Dixon, New York City Crime Report. I've been a guest on the show for about the last month and a half. We go over all crimes in New York City with a little bit of a twist to them. So check that out. That's Pat Dixon at the New York City Crime Report. You can also watch him on the Compound Network. Pat Dixon on the Crime Report, which is a national show. And check out Christine Meehan-Berg. She does a live comedy show every Wednesday in Queens. Look her up on Instagram. And with that, I will say thank you. Enjoy your week. We'll see you next Sunday. Chris, take us out.
Here we go, folks. Good night. Thank you for tuning in. Hit the like, hit subscribe.
Members only. Bye-bye.